It's a quick installation video for the 1103 electric steering that I make. First, we're going to start with the main bracket and the swivel. These washers are very important for spacing. There's usually about 7 washers in there, and the first thing we want to do is make sure we get this play out of that assembly. So this is a nylon lock nut. So I'll tighten this down just to eliminate the play and make sure that it still turns freely. So there's no play there. And then, just for safety, I will install another nut on top of that just to make sure it does not come out, and lock it in place. We have free movement with no play. Now we'll install this, and we'll need these 2 side washers. I want to make sure that this bracket is as far back as it can go, and that this top is fairly even with the top of the Torqueedo mount. Let me just tighten those up. Next is the mount for the base for the actuator. And if I didn't say it earlier, this is an unpainted version. These are made out of steel, so they definitely have to be painted. This uses the existing mounting bolt for the Torqueedo motor mount. Next is the actuator. Important thing about the actuator is the hole in the end of the actuator. You have to run a 1/4-inch drill bit through there because the hole that it comes with is only 3/16 of an inch. And on the base end of the actuator, we have a 1/4-20 bolt with a nut, just so there's no play, but it is not super tight because we want that to turn. And this goes in there. And we need another eye bolt. Okay. Now, this eye bolt, we have 5 washers on top, and then 1 washer and a nut on the bottom. And again, this nut will actually, we don't want it super tight. We just want no play in there because we want that to turn. We want the actuator arm to spin on it. And underneath is a nylon lock nut. And we tighten the lock nut. then we also have a nut. We also have a nut that has a lock nut that has to go underneath here. And that should do it. Now, for a connection to the motor, I have a clip here, turnbuckle, and this clip, this assembly stays attached to the motor permanently. It just clips on to the steering like that. Now, once your steering is installed and these are adjusted properly, which this is not adjusted properly because this is not my steering unit, you adjust it properly by turning these turnbuckles. If you don't have lock nuts on your turnbuckles, I add super glue to these threads to keep the turnbuckles from turning. And then that's how it works. One other quick note about waterproofing. This actuator that I use, which is fairly inexpensive on Amazon, it's about $40, says that it's waterproof, but in my experience it's really not. So what I did is I took these 3 screws out of the bottom plate and I sealed all in here with just silicone sealer, gasket sealer, automotive gasket sealer. I did have a problem when I first installed this. Water did get in there and the gear started to rust and you could hear the actuator slowing down. Since I've sealed it up, there's been no problems at all. This screw right here, best I can tell, that's a lubricating hole. I squirt some oil in there every once in a while. And other than that, this actuator has lasted me well over a year with no problems. Also, the remote receiver is definitely not waterproof. That has to be installed in some sort of waterproof box. I put mine inside this battery box and just run a cord from the actuator to the battery box. But how you set that up is up to you. Just be forewarned, it is not waterproof. The clicker has proven to be pretty weather resistant. I've left this out in the rain, I've fished with it in the rain, and it has not failed yet. I do have a spare just in case, but it's been working pretty well.